Today's video, I started cleaning up the pistons. So I spray them with this stuff. This is the best stuff I've ever found for cleaning stuff, is this Mercury Power Tune. And you can get this at most marinas that sell Mercury outboards or cruisers. It is really, really good stuff. I like it. And of all the stuff I've used all the years I've worked as a mechanic, this stuff is the best. So I'm cleaning got the pistons. I sprayed the ring areas and wrist pin areas and the inside of the pistons, and I'll keep it soaked down. I ordered another case of this, but we'll get all those cleaned up and the rings off and the ring grooves cleaned up, and measure them, make sure they're within tolerances, get the bores measured, make sure I don't need to send it out for rebore, get the crank mic'd up and make sure it's alright. I'm not even going to order any parts for the engine till I'm done measuring everything, because you can get like rebuild kits. They come with all the components you need and they're a lot cheaper than buying individual parts. I will put a new oil pump drive. It's going to have all new bearings. If the pistons are okay and the cylinders are okay, it's going to have new rings. If it needs reboring, then it's going to have new pistons too. So obviously timing chain and gear. Today I'm going to get the car jacked up so I can pull the wheels, and because I got a lot to do, even if I have to send that out to the machine shop, it's going to be a while before that engine's done. And while I'm working on the engine, or waiting on things with the engine, like I'm waiting on getting the tools from my brother to do all the measuring, I will do some other things. So I'm going to get the transmission out from under the car. I'm going to get the steering gear off so I can reseal the transmission. And like I say, it's going to be jacked up. All the wheels and tires are coming off, so I can start working on the brakes too. And then I can start cleaning the engine compartment and, undercarriage and whatnot, and getting ready all this stuff ready for paint. So when the engine's done, it can go right in. Everything will be done under the hood. Got a new battery tray coming. I found one, brand new reproduction. So that's coming with all the hardware, everything. And but the engine compartment will be finished before the engine goes back in. And then, it's just matter of the body, and I think the brakes should be done by then, because I'm going to wait to paint it until after the brake lines are routed and everything, so the brake lines get painted so they don't rust. And so it'll have new hydraulic lines. I probably will paint with the power brake booster off. I'll probably remove that. The steering gear will be off. Obviously the steering pump will be out of there. All this rubber stuff will be off. I don't know if I'm going to take the plenum off the firewall yet or not. We'll see. But it's going to get a good cleaning up so it can be painted and look pretty when the motor goes back in, because that's all going to be painted up and pretty too. So then I'll just have to cover and mask everything really well in here when I go to paint the body, so I don't get any overspray in the engine compartment. But better, I guess, to have a little overspray to clean up in an engine compartment than have overspray and fresh paint on the body from painting that. So that's the way I look at it. So the body will be the last aspect of this car I tackle, the paint, body and paint. And I'll probably one day just go over the car with my body hammer. Once I take all the trim off, I'll go over it with my body hammer to make sure I get any soft spots. Just go around, tap it, and see where, you can sound it out, hear where it needs work and where it doesn't. Alright, let me get to getting the timing cover off here. So to save my tool, I put a couple drops of oil in where this goes on, and then I just take a little bit of oil and run it on the threads. And that way when you're running this in, you don't gulp things up or mess your tools up. So the pulley is off, and I won't put this in the parts washer because this is the balancer, and see, it's got a rubber in there, and I don't want to have that rubber swell up from petroleum products. So I'll just probably clean the groove out and throw it in the bead blast cabinet and clean it up. And this, I got to knock the little key out and then clean the crank up just a little bit around there. And then this piece here, which is actually loose on the crank right now that the pulley's off, this piece should just slide off the crankshaft. So let me get that key out and clean that up and go from there. Now you can see the timing chain, and it really isn't that bad. It's got a nylon gear, and it's actually in decent shape, but you know, there is some slop in the chain. Yeah, I don't know if the crank is moving 3 degrees before the chain moves or the cam moves. I mean, maybe it's just barely moving, maybe a degree. So I think the timing chain is actually okay. It is going to get replaced, but you take this is the fuel pump eccentric that drives the fuel pump. As you notice, that's the center, so that spins off center and works the arm on the fuel pump. I always keep my bolts with the covers of whatever, like, okay, so that's for the timing cover, and obviously I showed you this is the sealing surface, and it's actually just needs cleaning up, but you clean that rust off, and then that's got like a key thing in it too, and it fits a key right there. So you just clean that rust off. There's a little rust in between here, and usually if the engines run regularly, I don't think there's rust in there, but after sitting 43 years, it had rust in there, so I had to sand that rust off to slide this off the crank. This is hard to do with work the camera with greasy hands, but this gear should pop right off the camshaft, and then this gear will just slide forward. And there's the timing chain and gears are off. And you can see we're down to the crank and the camshaft. This plate comes off, and the camshaft, I'll use the gear after I take this plate. I'm not going to take the cam out until I get the crank out, so I can reach in there and hold the cam so I don't have lobes hit any of the bearings or anything. I just don't want to damage them if I reuse them. I'll probably replace them, but you never know. My goal is to replace them, but if I don't want them damaged. So that's why the crank's coming out first. And that'll probably be when I'm not even going to bother taking the crank out until I have the measuring tools. And I'm not going to clean anything more up until after I've measured it and decided whether it needs to be rebored or not. So we're pretty much all at a stop on the engine. I am going to clean the parting surfaces off, and then we'll get the car raised up, and then I can start getting the trans out and tearing the brakes off and getting that stuff done. Oh, and I said in the past video I have the tag to the carburetor, and I don't know if you can see well, I don't think the writing is going to show up on the tag, but it says C7AZ-2005J, and then below that it looks like it may be a 1032-A, and then below that it looks like C-4201- or maybe it's a DJ. It's either DJ or an 01. 420J maybe, I don't know, and then -AP. I don't know if, like I say, I don't think that's going to show up in the video, but if it does, great. So I'm going to look through my parts hoard. I may have a kit for this carburetor. If I don't, then I guess I'll get one ordered so I can go through it too. This is why you don't, when your pulley's on here, you don't wrench too hard on it to try and unstick a stuck engine or hammer on it or anything. You can literally snap these and or bend them. They're, it's kind of, you just got to be careful. That's why you always want to try and go to the flywheel end and grab on the ring gear or something, or even put bolts in there and work it. But if you try and something out here, that's a lot of leverage on this length, and I've seen those snapped off. So you just got to be careful you don't get too carried away. trying to unstick an engine, you know, because of that. Another thing, I was starting to price out parts, and I was gonna see about getting a water pump. And then when I see how much they want for these things, I think I'm going to see if I can get the bearings and seals and rebuild it myself. So if I do rebuild it myself, I'll show you how to do it. You do need a press to do it. So this is how I support the transmission. I just take a 2x4 across the front, and if you have nice paint and fenders, you might want to put some towels or something there, not even support it on the fenders, just support it to no further than here. But this works for me, and I tie a loop in it, and then you can literally, and I can't tie it and hold it, but you can literally pull this, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can actually lift the transmission just with that rope. So, and if you're uncomfortable, just a couple of ropes, you got plenty of holes, you can tie as many as you want. I'm just going to tie this up so I can get my jack and block out and drain the torque converter and the sump, and then I'm going to get the car jacked up and get the transmission out. So when I was wiping out the bell housing, there was a lot of fine metal in there, and there is the teeth on the flywheel are pretty much cleaned off in that one spot, so I'll have to have a new ring gear put on or get a new flywheel. You can get the ring gears replaced, so I'll look into that. But it looks like somebody was trying to, maybe the previous guy I bought it from was trying to crank the motor with it stuck, and kind of did in the flywheel, because that doesn't look old. That would be rusty if it was old, perhaps. Well, maybe not, but maybe that's why the car was parked. Who knows? But I suspect that was done from somebody trying to crank a stuck engine. And we'll get that taken care of. We can't put that back in, that's for sure. I am just going to let that drain overnight, and I'm going to take the plug out of the sump too. It's probably the original fluid in the transmission, I'm speculating. I mean, it looks a little not as red as it should be, but it's not nasty. Like, it doesn't stink, and you know, it doesn't smell burned, and it does have red tint to it, but it is kind of dirty and need a... We'll get the transmission apart when we put the front seal in it and have a look at it. It's up on jacks, and I can pull the wheels off. I'm going to get another set of my jack stands. I have another set up at my dad's. I'm going to put 2 sets under the car. I just am not comfortable with one set. Underneath of this car is really nice. Frame's solid and clean, and I wish there. Yeah, that's just where the undercoating is peeling. And I'll go around and clean all that up before I repaint the undercarriage. Probably paint the undercarriage about the same time I paint the engine compartment. So once the body paint's done and put the car body back together, the car will be close to finished, other than a convertible top and an exhaust system, of course. I'm going to pull to drain the transmission. You take the dipstick tube out. So I'm going to get that draining, and then I won't have a lake of fluid to land when I'm pulling the transmission out from under the car. I'll let the trans drip overnight. Less fluid. I turned the torque converter a few times to get the fluid out of the pump and stuff, so it drains some more. I'm going to get the drive shaft out and get the cross member unbolted. Speedometer cable off and the trans cooler lines and out of the car. And then when I get the trans out, I can get the exhaust pipes out from under here. And but every time I get under this car, I'm like, wow, so nice and solid. I mean, that's just, this stuff will just wire brush off. It's just where the paint has peeled. This car has not been rust proofed. That is paint, factory paint, and it is in really, really nice shape, this car. I don't know if wish it would all show up really good. Really super happy when I look at the undercarriage. It's like, wow, did I luck out? Usually that's the first thing gone on these older cars is the chassis and the undercarriage, and it is rock solid. So anyway, might run to Harbor Freight. There's the vacuum modulator. That tells the transmission the load that is on the engine. So if you're, I guess I need to get a light, but that tells the manifold vacuum, which tells the transmission the load on the transmission, and then there's a governor that'll tell you the road speed, and then the throttle linkage that, well, attaches over here tells the transmission how far you got the accelerator pushed, and that tells the transmission when to shift. Modern cars, it's all those sensors, your map sensor and throttle position sensor, and all your road speed's all electronic and goes to the ECM. On these old cars, it was all mechanical. Literally had a vacuum modulator that ran on manifold vacuum, and a governor in the trans and mechanical linkage from the carburetor that all told the transmission, you know, when it should shift. So we'll get the drive shaft out here in a few minutes and get the speedometer cable and, you know, just start getting the trans ready to drop. I'm going to run to Harbor Freight and probably get a trans jack. I pull enough transmissions to where I could use one, and I don't have help. My dad used to help me with them, and he messed up his shoulder, helped me do one once, so my brother's got a hoist and a trans jack, but the problem is, how do I get this? I can't really just drive the car there and pull a trans out, so that's not going to happen. Not without an engine. Well, this is what I picked up to get the transmission out. Jack is actually alright. It jacks up rather quickly. And lower, you can move the pump handle around, so that's kind of nice. And then when you can loosen this up, you can lower it slowly instead of having it slam down. Looks like if I want to get the transmission in and out of the car, I'm going to have the car up another 12-18 inches, which I guess is really no big deal, but at least I can get the transmission in and out of the car. I can always put it on the floor and slide it out if I have to on a piece of wood or something, but I think this will work out. We'll give it a try, and hopefully it does. I think it will. Would be nice if it lowered more, but that's just the way it is. You can kind of see these will tilt that, turning these, and this one will turn up, you know, so I can turn it this way or that way. These will fit the pan or whatever, and I think, you know, I mean, that's that much of the transmission will be coming down, so, you know, in order to clear the whole transmission, yeah, I'll probably have to lift the car another, well, maybe not. I might be able to just slide it out through the front under there, but we'll see. We'll putz with it and see how it works, see how I like it. I sprayed the gas tank strap nuts. You know, I only need to get them undone a little bit, and then I can lift the bolt up and out. They'll probably break, maybe, I don't know. I can't heat them with the torch, obvious reasons. And that sounds like it has a fair amount of gas in it, and it stinks really super bad. And like, I think the tank is probably close to full. I'm going to have to get a couple of my old gas cans. I don't know, it feels like it's got gas in it anyway, but you can see the... no, you can't. I'll get a light. maybe this will help. So you can see where the sending unit is and the lines go on. All the original stuff, never been apart. The underside of this car is super solid. You can see paint still inside the frame. Let me yeah, look at that. That's the way the inside of the frame is, pretty much all on the whole car. In fact, some of the spring pockets even, you can still see some of the paint. The undercarriage on this car, super clean, so I have the drive shafts out, and I'll pull that exhaust out and get the brake drums off, and then I can take the parking brake cables off, because I want the parking brakes to work on this car too. And that way I can clean the undercarriage and paint it up super nice, but it is really nice solid undercarriage. I just thought I'd show a little bit of it now that it's, you know, up on the jack. See, look at the inner wheel wells. Getting a shadow from the camera, but yeah, super solid. Old car for 53-year-old car. It's nice. Rear control arm bushings are good. They're not cracked or split or anything. So yeah, obviously the shock is leaking there. We'll put new shocks and new springs in it. You can clean the diff up. I can't see what I'm videoing. I'm just holding the camera under here. But anyway, there you go. A little bit of the undercarriage. And look at this. That's the rear quarter, rear bumper. These cars always rotted out around in there, and in the inner rear wheel wells. The wheelhouse is nice. I mean, you can see primer on the floor pan in places where undercoating's peeled. Paint, like I say, inside the frame rails. Super nice. And the drive shaft is out, and the U-joints are kind of stiff. So, you know, after sitting for 43 years, yeah, I get it. And I'm pretty certain I have U-joints. I got a whole hoard. I got boxes and boxes and boxes of U-joints I've bought from places, you know, and they've closed up or gone out of business, or I see them brand new in the box at estate sales, wherever. So I'm probably 85% certain I'll have U-joints, correct U-joints for this car. So I was just checking the pistons out before I go in. Now hopefully I can show you this, but the rings have already freed up on most of the pistons. Go show you how that power tune stuff works. They've been sprayed, I don't know, for 4 hours maybe. They've just been sitting there. I sprayed them this morning, and it's about, well, I sprayed them about noon, and it's a little after 6 now. So that stuff works, and I'll give them another little coat tomorrow and the next day, and then in a few days I'll throw them in the parts washer and clean them up. I'll also show you this gooky stuff right here, this crud. Just falls right off now. So this stuff definitely makes a difference. I'll let it soak. Those pistons are gonna clean up nice. That power tune, this stuff it's good stuff. So there we go, about another 6 hours of putzing on the car, and I think tomorrow I'll pull the transmission down and out of there and start cleaning up the engine compartment. And then I think Saturday or Sunday I should have the measuring tools from my brother, so I can start measuring up the engine to see what I need to send off for machine work and whatnot, get the ball rolling on that. And so again, if you want to see this car resurrected, hit the subscribe button and keep watching my videos. And if you like the video, hit the like button. And thank you for watching my videos.